Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Madam Presiding Officer, having listened to the minority, I expected that they would have some challenges with comprehension, but I did not expect that they would have challenges with mathematics. The minority leader is trying to position himself as being a leader for 35,000. He's trying to sum up all the people that did not either support my party or voted in the election. But if we are to use that mathematical logic, then really and truly there are 41,872 people who did not support the PNM in the last election. So really and truly, who is he really representing? Save and except his district. And if, in fact, as he said, he has been hearing the voice of Tobagonians from Palatavia and from Belgarden and in Crown Point, then he would have heard about the licking that they were going to get before they got it. You see, this notion in this house that somehow Tobagonians must only make steps at the dictates of the PNM is an offensive one. Very offensive. It is so offensive that the goodly gentleman and his party can't even properly concede a defeat in an election. Offensive that they somehow think that they have some navel string tied to governance, that their way and their way alone must work. And Tobagonians, I'm not giving way unless it's a point of order. Unless it's a point of order.
A point of clarification. No, the Chief Secretary is claiming that the PNM did not properly concede, and the PNM conceded even before at 9 p.m. properly so. So I just wanted to clarify that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. You see, I don't know, sometimes in defeat they get kind of tizzic, right? That to this day they can't even allow for the new government to settle into office properly. They're just trying to make confusion where there is none. And I can tell you because we experience it, right? No goodwill in defeat. But that's beside the point. You see, there's a word I really want to use, but I don't know if it is parliamentary or not. So you will have to guide me, Madam Presiding Officer. I don't know if the word hypocrisy is parliamentary or not. But if it is not, I'll use the word pietism. Because I want to talk about the pietism of the PNM, which came out today. Because this issue with pietism rarely is reflected in Scripture when it talks about having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. About the people who shout, Lord, Lord, but God had not time to hear their prayers. They're not heaven bound. Pietism, trying to project themselves as pious proponents of government, when in fact they're the furthest thing from that. Their sins red like scarlet and need to be washed white as snow. But, Madam Presiding Officer, first thing I want to say is that in my presentation, I took care to talk about the issue of greater autonomy. In fact, I did not even mention the term self-determination or the right to self-determination. And I'll get to the member for Roxburgh Argyle shortly. One of the first questions the minority leader asks is the issue of how is that to be defined. And I am clear on record, including today, into saying that Tobago and Tobagonians had a process that led to bills that went down to the parliament, and that is the starting point. I have not come here to propose a new bill. I didn't come here to say we should do something different from what Tobagonians did up at Signal Hill in 2014. As a matter of fact, when I searched the records, it's called the Motion of Signal Hill, and that refers to a significant event in Tobago's history where a meeting held at Signal Hill Secondary School. The gathering convened by the Convention of the People of Tobago in 2014 focused on exploring Tobago's autonomy and self-governance, particularly in its relationship with Trinidad. And this is from our own Officer Chief Secretary page. So in other words, the people of Tobago met in 2014, decided we wanted some things, sent it down to Parliament, and whether the minority leader wants to hear it or not, Rowley and his team changed, abridged, took out what they didn't want without properly consulting Tobagonians, and then came back and said, take this or leave it. When Tobagonians sent bills to the Parliament, you know what it included? A bicameral house, 2 houses. When it came back, they removed that completely without putting any mechanisms in place to check and balance. Yet, they're here today at about pietism, piously talking about respecting the people of Tobago and people of Tobago's voice. Where is the respect for the people of Tobago in that? When Orville sent the bill down to Parliament, he had clear definition for what is Tobago and the authority for Tobago, including Tobago waters. His party all over the island saying they were 200 miles. Half of them can run a measuring tape anywhere. 200 miles. When Rowley bill came back, not a single mile there. Where is respect for the voice of the people of Tobago? That is hypocrisy. That is pietism, Madam Presiding Officer. And so, to stand in this house and behave as though somehow we are muffling, stifling, choking the voice of Tobagonians is being unreal. In fact, they are being unserious at this point. I said clearly in the opening that we are restarting the conversation from the Orville bill. I said that clearly. I've said it multiple times in the space, even while the last bills were before the Parliament. I said, as far as I'm concerned, that remains the last authoritative voice Tobago have for a position on this thing called autonomy. I am also clear in saying that the same fate that befell the Kamla Prasad Bissessa Bill of 1993 is what happened to the Keith Rowley Bill, the last one, of 2024, well, bills of 2024. Sorry, the Kamla Bill of 2013, apologies. Because both arrangements did not properly consult the people of Tobago. For Tobagonians who are listening, when we draft a motion, and member for Roxburgh Argyle, this is a motion, not a bill. This is a motion, not a bill. When we draft a motion is concise. A motion does not speak to every single specific action. And in this motion, there is nowhere in this motion it says that there will be zero consultation with the people of Tobago. And I thought that if the minority felt it was so important for that to be stated in the motion, that they would have preferred at least an amendment. But instead, lazy approach came with a prepared speech, right? I don't know if this prepared speech coming from Trinidad or still.
Members.
Yes.
Assemblyman Augustine, please have a seat. Again, I'm going to remind you of the protocols of this House. When a member is speaking, you do not interrupt. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. As at the point of saying, I don't know if the speeches are still coming across the water to be read in the House. By now, they should realize that's a failing political strategy. But without fail, true to form, very predictable, you could have gotten the minority and their response. I want to say on the record that the matrix that was sent to Parliament, the aid memoir that was sent to Parliament, that all those documents were published publicly, not just to members of this House, but for the entire country to see what's in those documents. Those were published publicly. Secondly, well, maybe this is about third now, I wish to correct the historical record, because both members tried to change the record to make it seem as though PNM was always in support of this autonomy for Tobago. Here is the reality. In one instance, they made up the majority of the parliament. The sum total of their support was just voting for a watered-down bill because they refused to accept the recommendations from Simongal. Yes. Refused. Felt it was too much for Tobago. Refused. And in 1996, Robinson had to water down that bill, water down the constitutional arrangement, because that was the only way he was going to get support from an incalcitrant minority in the parliament then. I agree with him that the biggest mistake Robinson made is that when it was 33-3, that he did not give Tobago the full thing. I agree with him. But perhaps if he had done that, he would have get more than a gunshot wound. They might have killed him dead then. Because some of the supporters... Some of the supporters...
Members, I understand that this is a very spirited motion, but I am going to caution you for the last time, Assemblyman Augustine. Please be mindful of your words. You may continue.
You're talking about killing and shooting.
No, I was just talking about the historical account of the fact that we had a prime minister where large numbers of Trinis, supporters of the Red Brigade, who felt that he was giving Tobago too much because Tobago get a little international airport for the first time. Poor fella, right? And a little duck pond down there. Poor fella, we had to wait until between 86 to get some kind of international port and airport. Trying to move mountains in 5 years, they nearly kill him, man. So if you give away the whole thing, they might have killed him dead. But I want to correct the record to show precisely how PNM and specifically Tobago PNM felt. And I want to read an ex-cockroach paper according to the member for Roxburgh Argyle from the 10th of February 1978. There are two headlines in the newspaper. One, PNM against Tobago internal self-government. Yes. And the second headline in the same paper is PNM against Tobago internal self-rule. And in this article, Madam Presiding Officer, we had the following people representing PNM Tobago. Miss Cynthia Alfred, does that name ring a bell? Member of the PNM General Council, employed in the Division of Culture of the Ministry of Education and Culture. Mr. Rennie Matthews, an alderman and chairman of the St. Patrick County Council. Mr. Pitt, spokesman for the delegation, outlined to the committee that the ways and means to which the PNM went about gaining a consensus on the issue of internal self-government for Tobago. The consensus as outlined in the party's memorandum was that it rejected the proposition of internal self-government for Tobago. So when Robinson and Murray and them wanted internal self-government for Tobago, they went and had their own consultation in Tobago. I hear people sign a petition. I wasn't born yet. I hear some sign with left hand, some sign with right hand, and toe and all kind of thing to make up the numbers. And went to the parliamentary committee to say Tobago don't want internal self-government. That's the record of PNM Tobago. They never wanted it. And not behaving like they want it more than everybody else. That is the fact. So don't come and talk about historical record. And as for the member for Roxburgh Argyle, he keeps misunderstanding the fact that the terms autonomy and self-determination, that they are strong relatives. Not even cousins, they are siblings. They are inextricably linked. One does not go without the other. As it is right now, yes, we have some degree of autonomy. And that's why I always use the phrase greater autonomy, meaning we want more than what we have. But as it stands right now, we do not have any autonomy to determine for ourselves what kind of government we want. We can come in this house as the last motion, and I'm thankful for the member for Scarborough Mount Grace, who pointed out that the last motion this house had before it was squashed to join Trinidad was a motion that says that if we become dissatisfied with Trinidad, we will leave the union and return. That is the last thing that happened in this house before we joined forcefully in an arranged marriage with Trinidad. Since then, there is nothing in law, and the minority that mentioned the term right to self-determination too. Not even in those last two bills, nothing in those bills that give the people of Tobago the right to decide for themselves what form of government they want. Nothing in those bills will allow Tobagonians subsequently, or if they are passed, to wake up one morning and decide if Tobagonians want to leave the union and become independent. Nothing. And one of the caution I want to give the member of Roxborough Argyle is this. And I want to ask him in his absence as usual. I want to ask him how many people he consulted, who he consulted with, when were those consultations, who tell him Tobagonians say that that's what they want. The last thing Tobagonians said that they wanted from that convention of the people in 2014 that was sent down to the parliament through former Chief Secretary Orville London did not in any way sound or seem like Tobagonians wanted to leave the union, that's Trinidad and Tobago. It was not there. Can anybody in this house say when last a poll was done to see how many Tobagonians favor leaving the union or staying in the union? So why is the member for Roxborough Argyle advancing a position as though that is the position of the people of Tobago when it is his personal dream for an independent Tobago? And let's be fair, many of us in here have individual opinions about how this union should work. I have those independent opinions too. And private Farley Augustine sometimes feel as though we're better off just walking away from this whole relationship. But Chief Secretary Farley Augustine respects the fact that Tobagonians have never given me that mandate. And until Tobagonians give me that mandate, I am not going to advance that. And so the member for Roxborough Argyle, I want to challenge him. Commission a poll around the whole island. Do a non-binding referendum if you want. I have spoken about referendum being an easy way for Tobagonians to more or less decide we want this or we don't want that. People just vote. But right now, our constitution doesn't allow for a referendum. So if we have one, it will be a non-binding referendum. And so I thank the member for Roxborough Argyle for his recital of the history for the umpteenth time. But for the umpteenth time, we remind him that autonomy and the right to self-determination are inextricably linked. Further, the right to self-determination is a human right. And sometimes I wonder whether it is something that someone can give or not. Like we all have this right to exist, the right to have family, the right to form associations, to join groups, freedom of worship, freedom of speech. And similarly, the right to self-determination as enshrined. And he should go back and listen to my presentation on the 10th of November, 2024, where I did a live broadcast discussing this concept of the right to self-determination and what is consistent with Tobago's position. This motion, Madam Presiding Officer, again, it does not present any new bill on behalf of the people of Tobago. It does not present any new position on behalf of the people of Tobago. It simply says that on behalf of the people of Tobago, there are some actions that both the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government must take. More than that, Madam Presiding Officer, the motion as presented, demonstrates that this government is willing to work with anybody who is willing to accord unto the people of Tobago the autonomy, the levels of autonomy that the people of Tobago want at this time. I have been clear in saying that there will be no supporting policy paper to be transmitted to the Prime Minister that won't be public first. Let me be clear in saying that a motion can, in fact, be transmitted to the Prime Minister legally. Bills can be sent down to Parliament, but the contents of a motion can, in fact, be transmitted to the Prime Minister. Every year, at the end of the year, we sit here and we make motions, and you, the clerk, at Christmas, will transmit the contents of that motion to the President, the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice, opposition leader, all sorts of people. So that is perfectly legal and normal, and so we shouldn't pay much attention to the bush lawyerism that we sometimes hear in this House. Again, this motion resolves to do 4 things. The first thing is that we welcome the new positioning of the government and the Prime Minister. We welcome it. And let me go on record to say that the moment this positioning changes, it also will change and color whatever relationship I as Chief Secretary on behalf of the people will have with the Prime Minister. Because while some say Tobago first, being in this position for 3.5 years has brought me to a place of Tobago only. I really not even concerning myself with what they want to do in Trinidad for Trinidadians. That's their business. I have come to a place at Tobago only at this point. And so anybody, including the current Prime Minister, anybody who in any way will intervene in a manner that disrupts Tobago's quest and dream for autonomy, greater autonomy, will first meet me at the front of the battle. Second to that, the second resolution says that the Attorney General and the Chief Parliamentary Council must work with the THA. And I see members of the minority having objections to that, which is strange. Because I participated, I spoke before joint select committees, and the leadership was members of Parliament. I don't know that this House could pass the bill or the law. I don't know that we should not be working with the Attorney General and the Chief Parliamentary Council. In fact, Act 40 of 1996 says that the Chief Parliamentary Council should be doing work in Tobago based on the 6th schedule. Sorry, the 7th schedule. The 7th schedule, not 6th, 7th schedule. And I don't know, working with them somehow reduces our authority. We were working with them to get town country planning. And after all the agreements and everything in place, I even brought this a motion here first. Do all the steps. In fact, the only time Mr. Hodge Charles returned to this House after ceasing being a member of this House was to sit in the gallery and to listen to me present that motion in this House. In fact, he drafted the motion. The minority didn't support it because they were of the position that we should not be fighting for town country planning. We don't have any authority there. Again, that is the definition of sellout. That is the definition of a mind so entrapped by neocolonialism. Can't get out. I recommend watching the movie Get Out to the minority. And so working with them is so that we are basically saying, while we are working on getting the greater autonomy, while we are working on getting the ideal bill before Parliament, there are some things in Act 40 of 1996 that we could do right now. Right now. We don't have to wait. We don't need to wait to get a larger percentage of the pie, as the Secretary for Finance, Councillor Roberts, spoke about. We don't need to wait to force all businesses in Tobago to pay their taxes in Tobago. We don't need to wait to get town country planning in Tobago or valuations department. And I know the member for Roxbury Argyle clearly was not listening, because I did in fact list out several areas from the 5th schedule that we have to work on. I listed them out, and they included town country planning, they included environment, valuations department, it included education to an extent, customs and excise, licensing, statistics and information, public utilities, air and seaports. I listed it. But again, some people have problems with comprehension, and I believe it is deliberate, being done deliberately in hopes that Tobagonians will not have an appreciation for facts. Finally, ultimately, we have asked that the government look at the previous autonomy bills.
Member, you have 4 minutes remaining.
Sure, that's more than enough. We have asked that the government review the autonomy bills that passed through the parliament before. So we are asking them to start from scratch. We're asking the government to go and write a new bill, review, have the input, have the inclusion of the Tobago House of Assembly. Let us identify areas of consensus and refinement, and then we could reintroduce to the parliament, which is what they refuse to do all the time. Because we would not have been here because we keep saying, don't start from scratch. Take up back what Mr. London sent to you, and let us fix the areas of separation or dissonance or disagreement between the two pieces of documents. And they refuse to do it. Refuse to do it. And to me, that's a simple request. That's not even a difficult request. And I thought that given the minority felt that there should be inclusion of the people of Tobago, although I've stated clearly in my opening that the people of Tobago must be consulted, and that I will remain consistent in not supporting any bill where the people of Tobago are not given prior consultation. I thought they might have made an amendment there and include the people of Tobago. So, Madam Presiding Officer, I'm going to help them and propose an amendment now. And I'm going to propose in the second to last paragraph, right after THA, it now reads, and be it further resolved that the government review all previous versions of the autonomy bills with input from the THA and the people of Tobago, identify areas of consensus and refinement, and reintroduce the bills in Parliament at the shortest possible period. So we are just including the words, and the people of Tobago after THA. And the final resolution says, and be it further resolved that the Chief Secretary transmits this motion and a supporting policy paper to the Prime Minister at the earliest opportunity following its passage. Again, I give the commitment that the policy paper will not be transmitted until everybody sees it. Everybody sees it. We may not have full agreement from everybody. That's what democracy works. But we will go with the majority voice. I wish to end by telling the people of Tobago, Madam Presiding Officer, that we have been at this for a very long time. We should not be here still. I thank the member for Cameron Grace for an important observation. It took 6 months for Great Britain to give this country its independence. 6 months. 6 months. This THA 44 years old. I remember saying it should take an next 3 years. 6 months for our first country. 6 months. West Indian Federation mashup, Jamaica gone their way. 6 months it took for us to get all the approvals and constitution. 6 months. And yet this country, birthed out of colonialism, cannot rid itself of colonialism by doing right by the people of Tobago. That is an indictment against the government of Trinidad and Tobago, period. For all these years since independence. Now is the time. I thank you, Madam Presiding Officer.